missed things. Things that we don't even enjoy, yet we find ourselves returning to it in the first place. There are many that I can name off the top of my head. School, work, Fortnite. These things are irritable, things that bring me everlasting pain. When I rethink of my time with those experiences, there are some good, but mostly negative. Now, on top of that, when we think about all that, we all have things that we necessarily don't like or don't really want to do, yet we have to do them, and sometimes we just continually keep crawling back to them. For example, in Fortnite, I have about 1,300 hours in the game, and my KD ratio is absolutely awful. I actually win like 30%, I think 30, 35, 40% of my matches. I get under half. And somehow I still revisit it every few months thinking, maybe I'll be a little bit better. No, never the case. I lose half the time, and then every single time I play a match, it makes me want to rip my skin off. These things are what become the bane of my life. Or sometimes it's in general school. There'll be an assignment that I'll be given. I'm like, wow, that's just some hot garbage, absolute shit. And I think to myself, oh, I have to do it. And they tell me when it's due. Tomorrow? Fuck. But these are some things that is frustrating, not wonderful. Yet I see myself sometimes crawling my little way back to them because why not? And on top of that, including my whole bad KD ratio, with school, I do find myself sometimes re-remembering some fond memories. I'm like, it's not a bad experience. Maybe it would have been better if this and such happened. Or, another experience where you come running back to the idea. Mainly for me, it's just the games. Oh gosh. Now, in life, we don't miss the thing, it's more like we miss the feeling of it, the grasp of the idea of it, the concept of it. You're like, it's not too bad, it's actually quite nice. And maybe that's a good thing to still resonate and still connect with those memories that we had with them. Sometimes when I'm playing a certain song on the guitar, I'm thinking, it'd be nice to play it at about 250 BPM, just for the fun of it. And then I realize I'm absolutely suffering from it, and my fingers are absolutely getting wrought off and destroyed completely. Yet, for some reason, I'm still returning to it, coming to the idea of it. Why? Because the feeling of achieving the song at such a high speed is impressive to people. People might think it would be very nice. Or, on top of that, increasing my KD and getting a few more wins would probably be better as well, because, somehow the game just makes me keep crawling back to it over and over and over again, and oh gosh. And on top of that, we miss where we were, the people that we were with at the time. Maybe you were with a person that you're no longer with anymore and you still miss them somehow and you haven't moved on yet. We should probably start doing that now. Or maybe there's a friend that you've really enjoyed your time with, but you haven't seen them anymore because they've moved to a different school or somewhere else, and you're unable to be around them anymore. Those connections is what brings us real joy with these things. And we think, you know what, maybe it wasn't really that bad. Then you start doing it again, and then you think what an awful decision that was. And on top of that, time changes how we remember certain events. Our brains typically don't show memories perfectly and in the exact right way that it happened in all the events and all the key things that happened around this area. It will typically remember the more good parts of it, but then scrape out all of the more negative things that happened around the time, or boring things, or things that weren't as interesting to bring up and to really get the juices flowing of how, it was just such a lovely time. And on top of that, familiar things feel more comfortable to us as people. If I told you, for example, here's your bed and here's a brand new bed that you've never been in, you'd probably feel a little bit more comfortable being in your bed that you've been sleeping in for like a few years because it's more familiar. The human mind typically likes to attach themselves to familiar objects or familiar experiences, games, memories, all things that attach. Every difficult experience can feel really good or great when looking back at them. The unknown future can feel much more scary than the familiar past that we once had. And on top of that, growing up changes our values. As we progressively get more older, more saggier, more like a raisin, we get our priorities of things really shift and, change. Things that we don't really have much of anymore. Our free time, all the simplicities of life we have, not worrying about the bills, not having to worry about what happens to come next with the food, or anything like that, or the Wi-Fi connection that still doesn't work, I wish it worked too. It really doesn't. we tend to start appreciating things that, we didn't really remember that we did appreciate just in general. For me, I know I was mentioning about, my KD ratio and how poor it is, all that kind of stuff. But another thing I seem to keep returning to that I'm not really good at is spicy food. It's not good, I'm not gonna lie to you. I seem to have at least one small amount of it, and I start breaking out with the strongest sweats, the strongest amount of heat, the maximum amount of temperature I can feel in my body. That's exactly what it is. I'm feeling it now. Unfortunately, I'm a pasty white guy. I really don't do too well with heat. As much as I enjoy it though, because it adds the variety of flavor to it. Those noodle packets will always get to me. Those individual spices or herbs or anything like that. It really gets to me. And on top of that, we can just talk about the vast amount of proportions that I see at Subway. I think, the footlong looks nice, so I'll try the footlong. Halfway through, I can't even eat the bloody thing because I'm like, you think that you can have the whole thing, you can't really, and sometimes I can, and sometimes you can't. These are things I'm like, I've now wasted all this time, money on this. The Subway one's a bad example. And on top of that, with the spicy food, I necessarily don't really like it. It's nice, it's good, I have an air, but just like enough and enjoy it enough to keep coming back to it, even though it's not the greatest, and I don't think my spice tolerance is building at all. I'm still sweating now. These things that we enjoy, yet we hate so much, it's like a toxic relationship between one or another. I simply just can't let go of the things that I really, really probably shouldn't have. Probably bring me more discomfort than good in my life. Bring me a more sane person. If I didn't play half of these games, Call of Duty, Fortnite, any online service multiplayer game, I'd probably be a much saner, happier person. But the next match will win, right? You just gotta load up again, right? Next thing you know, it's 6 o'clock in the morning, and I still haven't slept because I can't win the match. But we just need one more game. One more. We'll win, right? One more. And on top of that, we don't really necessarily need to go backwards in order to regain that feeling again, to re-achieve what we once had with all of that. The best thing for me, at least, and there's nothing wrong to reminisce or to do whatever you like, there's no problem with that, but in my personal opinion, for me, I think it's better to create new memories that are actually fully worth missing in the future. But that's just me. Okay, bye.